Diablo 4 Season 2 is just around the corner, and I feel like we're going to be getting new Necromancer players. So I'm going to be covering over the skill tree level progression for Necromancer minions, and this is most likely what I'm going to be running too for Season 2 as well. So the first thing we're going to grab once we hit level 1, we're going to grab Reap. From Reap, we're going to go into Enhanced Reap. Now you have a choice of going into Decompose as well, but I personally prefer Reap, so we're going to go Reap. From here, we're going to go into Blight, then we're going to go to Enhanced Blight, then finally into Supernatural Blight. So we should be at level 6 right now. We need one more point to get down here, so we're going to go back up. We're going to grab Acolyte's Reap for an extra corpse creation. This can only happen every 4 seconds, so keep that in mind. Now that we got the bottom cluster unlocked, we're going to put all our points into Skeletal Warrior Mastery. Now we should be level 10. So from here, we're going to grab Corpse Explosion. Then we're going to grab Enhanced Corpse Explosion. So from here, we now have the bottom cluster, but once we hit level 12, at this point, we should be able to use the Skeletal Warrior Reapers. And with the Reapers, we're going to choose the second upgrade, which they will have a 15% chance to create a corpse. This is very important as our playstyle will revolve around exploding corpses a lot. So now we're going to scroll back up. We're going to take this off for now. And from here, we're actually going to respec all of our points once we hit level 12. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Okay, there you go. And then we're going to put all the points into Hued Flesh. So Hued Flesh will create corpses when we are hitting things. The chance is doubled against bosses. So that's important to know that you'll be having a 24% chance to create corpses as well when you're hitting bosses. So now that we've respec'd out of Blight, we're not going to use Blight anymore. We're going to put our points back into Skeletal Warrior Mastery. We're going to put our points back into Corpse Explosion. Now from here, the next level up, you have a choice of going into Blighted Corpse Explosion, which will turn your Corpse Explosion into, instead of an instant damaging skill, it'll turn it into a damage over time skill. So depending how fast you want to go, you can keep this here, or if you like the Shadow, you can take this Blighted Corpse Explosion. So down now into the next cluster, we're level 12. So to unlock Skeletal Mages, you're going to have to reach level 15. So you can put 3 points into here for now, and that should bring us to level 15. From there, we're going to be able to use Skeletal Mages. The upgrades we have, the choices we have is a stun, or we can do a additional Shadow Bolt attack. I would usually choose this one, and then we'll go back to the skill tree. And then from there, we need 2 more points to get into the next cluster. So we can start speccing into Decrepify. Since we have 2 more points, we're going to go Decrepify, 1 point into here, and then 1 point into here. This will help us out, but this one isn't really the most important node here. We definitely want to get into Abhorrent Decrepify, but since we don't have any skills on that require cooldown, it's not necessary for now. Moving on to the next cluster, we have a couple choices here. We have Corpse Tendrils, we have Reaper's Pursuit for more movement skills. Now, if you're going to be grabbing Reaper's Pursuit, you're going to need shadow damage over time. Just keep that in mind. So the first thing I would grab is Necrotic Carapace. This will help us give some Fortify, as our minions, or Reapers specifically, are going to be creating tons of corpses. So I would max this out. And then from here, we need 4 points to go into the bottom cluster. So we're going to grab Corpse Tendrils. 1 point to Corpse Tendrils here, Enhanced Corpse Tendrils, and we're going to go into Plague Corpse Tendrils, as this will give us access to vulnerable status. Now we have 1 more point needed to get into this bottom cluster, and now we have our first cooldown skill actually. So right now it's at 11 seconds, and with Abhorrent Decrepify, enemies hit while afflicted with Decrepify have up to 15% chance to reduce your active cooldowns by 1 second. So this will help a lot with the uptime of corpse tendrils. Right now at the beginning stages, let's say at level 24, we're not gonna have much choices with the with lucky hit, but you can look for it on your gear stats as well to keep this up. Now, before we continue back into the skill tree, we have a couple of choices here with the Skeletal Mages. Feel free to experiment. We can go into Cold Mages for Essence, but we don't necessarily need Essence because we're not going to be using any spenders. We have here enemies who are frozen. We get more vulnerable application, so this is not bad as well. We have Bone Mages, and usually if you're going to do Bone Mages, I would pick this one. There's this node too. Each time a Bone Mage dies from its own attack, they leave behind a corpse and fortify you for 20% of your maximum life. This helps with tankiness, but this is not really helpful. This one here is a 40% damage multiplier if they're alive for more than 5 seconds. You will have to stay on top of casting your Skeletal Priests to make sure that you upkeep the Bone Mage's life. But this is very huge damage, so normally I would spec into Bone Mages at this point. And yes, so back into the skill tree. We have unlocked the bottom cluster here. Now this bottom cluster, we have so many skills. So many skills. Also, I forgot to mention the levels where we unlock the mages here. I'll pull this up here so you guys can see. So level 15, obviously we talked about that. We will get the Shadow Mage. At level 18, we'll get the Cold Mage. Level 22 is when we'll be able to unlock the Bone Mages. We can go into this now since we're going to the bottom cluster. In the bottom cluster, we'll be able to unlock Golems at level 25. Keep in mind you have to do a quest to unlock your very first Bone Golem. 28 for Blood Golem, and 32 for Iron Golem. So we'll go back to that later, but for now, just keep that in mind. So in the skill tree here, we're level 24. Once again, 25 is when we unlock our first Golem. There is so many good skills here for Necromancer minions. All this stuff we can grab. So the first priority, if you prefer minions playstyle like I do, I really love minions, so I'm gonna take care of them, you know? So I'm going to put all my points into Golem Mastery. At this point, we'll be able to get the Bone Golem. You have two choices here. If you're doing a Thorns build, you can do this, which will increase the amount of Thorns they inherit from you, and the Bone Golem will gain more life. Or we can go, each time your Bone Golem takes up to 20% of its maximum life as damage, it will shed a corpse. So our damage, or our support skill, I guess you could say, Corpse Explosion, comes from corpses, of course. So more corpses, the better. And the Bone Golem has a taunt, which is very good. This is a very good utility skill. The taunt will get enemies to focus on the Bone Golem, and usually you'll be engaging and starting a fight with the taunt. And the taunt cooldown will actually be reduced with Abhorrent Decrepify, which will allow more uptime of that skill. Now, moving further down below, I guess I should do skills here. So let's see. This is not going to be in any particular order, but once again, we got Raised Skeleton, Bone Golem. We're gonna have our Corpse Explosion, Corpse Tendril, and Decrepify, I believe. Yes, just double checking that we have enough space. Usually I would have Decrepify over here, like it's like my main skill. Yeah, this is the only spender that we're going to be using, and the upkeep to keep this at, up, the essence is very low, so normally you don't have to worry about essence for casting Decrepify. So back into this bottom cluster here, there's a lot of skills we can grab. I personally like to run Army of the Dead, as it just creates a lot of more corpses. This was buffed. Before it used to have a 15% chance, now it's a 100% chance. Now, a lot here depends on what's currently happening on your end. What's your experience? Are your minions dying a lot? Or are your minions perfectly fine and healthy? So, what I like to do is, since there's so many skills, you don't know what to grab, I'll start off with 1 point into Skeletal Priest. This will help keep the Bone Mages alive and the rest of your party of minions alive. And then from here, I will go into Inspiring Leader. So, if we're healthy, which is above 80% HP, minions will gain an increased amount of attack speed. The next skill we're going to grab is Death's Defense. Now this got reworked. Now it gives minions 4% armor and 8% elemental resist. Once again, this all matters if your minions are getting destroyed by the current content that you're facing, but if you find that your minions are fine, then you can definitely spec more points into Inspiring Leader, per se. So once again, I'll put 1 point into Death's Defense, and then 1 point into Hellbent Commander. So this way, you get a little bit of defense here, and a little bit of offense here. Now we then have 3 points left. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go into Army of the Dead, Prime Army of the Dead, and finally Supreme Army of the Dead. So Supreme Army of the Dead is a pretty cool skill. If you are in a weird place where all your minions are dead or whatever, and this is a good safety net fallback skill, Army of the Dead will bring back your Skeletal Warriors and your Skeleton Mages. But hopefully they're not that fragile this coming patch. It seems like they buffed their survivability a lot, so that's going to be very nice. Now onto the keynote passives. We have a couple choices here. We can go Kalan's Edict. I feel like this is the weakest keystone passive for minions. After you have not taken damage in the last 2 seconds, is just kind of impossible moving on forward into the endgame and stuff like that. I really wish they reworked this key passive and change it to being healthy, but maybe next season we'll be able to see that. Who knows? You have a choice of Shadow Blight. So every 10th an enemy receives shadow damage from you or your minions, they will be affected by Shadow Blight. They'll take an additional 22% shadow damage. So this obviously will only work if you have Blighted Corpse Explosion. Now at this point, you have a choice of either going into shadow damage, or you can stick with Kalan's Edict, or you can go into blood minions. There's a lot of choices here, but personally what I'm going to do most likely is go into Shadow Blight. Now I would finally take Blighted Corpse Explosion. Another reason why I went with the Shadow Blight passive is actually because of a certain aspect. Now we won't be going too deep into legendary aspects, but I'm going to showcase it here just real quick. So the aspect that we're going to be using is the Blighted aspect. You deal 50 to 120% damage for 6 seconds after the Shadow Blight key passive damages enemies 10 times. So once again, increased damage for us will also translate into our minions damage. Now from here we are level 36, and I believe, okay, so we're way over Iron Golem, but back to the Golem. Before we talk about the Golem, sorry I'm kind of a mess, I'm going all over the place. Now from here, basically our skill tree is basically done. We've got all the necessary components. We are at level 36. Definitely do experiment with like the different types of golems, the blood golem, the iron golem. They got majorly buffed this patch, so really try them out. Like the blood golem, this is good like defensive stat here. Absorbs 50% of the damage you take. That's a huge amount. If you're struggling with survivability, you would take this one, or you can take this one, which while healthy, your blood golem's healthy, it will gain 25% damage reduction and 50% increased damage, and that's multiplicative. This is a lot of damage, and if you go back to my YouTube channel, I actually have a video dissecting each golem and which one has like the strongest like damage and stuff, and the blood golem is the strongest single target golem at the moment, so definitely give that a try. The iron golem is more of an all-rounder, just like the bone golem, but the bone golem is more of a utility, more of a defensive utility, I'll say. So back onto the Iron Golem. Here we have upgrade 1. Every 4th Iron Golem attack causes a shockwave, dealing 16% damage to the primary enemy and to enemies behind them. This is a pretty good skill. You can really just let your Golem act and do whatever the heck it wants. Don't have to worry about it. And then there's this skill. This skill allows for more vulnerable. So every time you cast its spell, or its press the iron Golem button here, we'll do a slam, a big slam, and the enemies will be vulnerable for 3 seconds. So this will help with vulnerable application, but I feel like because we're getting vulnerable application through corpse tendrils anyways, you can go here or you can go here. Now this depends on playstyle. So the Iron Golem Slam has a short cooldown, and with Abhorrent Decrepify, if you want a more active playstyle and you want to keep spamming the Golem Slam skill, then yes, you can take this one. Now if you're a little bit more lazy like I am, you can just leave this on and then cast the Slam skill every so often. But mainly I will actually be running Bone Golem just because of its utility, but please feel free to experiment with these golems and maybe we can, you know, see which one is I guess the best. So yeah, once again I'm gonna link the YouTube video of me doing a little bit of an experiment on Golem's damage, and I'll leave that in the description below. But we're gonna leave this with Bone Golem just because of the utility. And I believe now we can grab Army of the Dead. So that's all our skills that we're going to be using. One problem that I can see with this already is that we don't have Blood Mist. This will help us get out of a sticky situation where we get CC'd a lot, but they changed that. So maybe we'll be okay. This is more of an end game concern. From levels 1 to 50, it's not really a problem, but yeah, if they bring back the Malignant Hearts and we get auto cast Decrepify, then maybe we can grab Blood Mist, but that's for the future, and I miss auto Decrepify. Anyways, yeah, so we're gonna be running without Blood Mist, but for now, like I said, our skill tree is done. From here it's speccing into additional things and more damage. So let's go back down here and we can start topping off the points here. Now this depends on the situation, on your situation. If your minions are just surviving well enough, you're gonna go more into Aspiring Leader and Hellbent Commander. So I feel like the minions are usually going to be okay from this point on, and I'm going to go spec into full damage. So we're going to go like ping pong back and forth, and here's the leveling path. You see we ping pong back and forth between Aspiring Leader and Hellbent Commander. And then we're going to go into the bottom and go for more survivability. At this point we're level 40, so we should be taking on the, I think it's the tier 3 capstone dungeon. Before I would take that on, I would make sure I would have these skills at least at 2 or 1. Once again, it depends on how minion survivability is, because they really buffed it. And so we're going to top these out, so we're at level 44. And we're going to go back up here. And so now we have a couple choices here. We can grab Reaper's Pursuit. This would help with movement speed now, because we have our Shadow Corpse Explosion. So let's grab some Reaper's Pursuit. 3 points into here. And now we can grab Death's Embrace. Close enemies take 2% more damage from you and deal 3% damage less to you. So this is for more survivability, and we should be topped off now at 50. Yes, it's either this or that, I don't remember, but at this point now it's going to be the Renown version of the tree. So for the Renown version, you get 10 extra skill points. We're gonna grab this Death Embrace. We're gonna grab Amplify Damage. And now we're left with 6 skill points. From here, we're going to grab Grim Harvest, just 1 point, so we can get into the bottom here, Fueled by Death. You deal 3% multiplicative damage for 6 seconds after consuming a corpse. So now this damage actually translates into your minions as well. Any damage percent increase you get goes into your minions. Keep that in mind. And now we have 2 extra skill points, which actually, I think at this point you're basically good. Maybe we can take Death's Reach, so we take less damage from enemies that are farther away. We can get more healing. We can take this Gloom. We can take Crippling Darkness for more CC, and this depends if you're running Shadow Mages. But once again, I think I'm going to be sticking with the Bone Mages just because they have such a huge damage multiplier. Yes, so at this point you can put points into Thorns, I guess, because like Thorns does help with the application of Decrepify if you don't have any Thorn sources. Yeah, actually, you know what? So let's go with the let's go with this Death's Reach. Actually, no, sorry. You deal increased damage to distant enemies. Yeah, that doesn't. I guess that helps the Skeletal Mages because they're distant, far from the enemies. So yeah, we'll finish off with these 2 points here. And that's the skill tree. I will be posting this down below. I look forward to seeing all of you in Season 2 Diablo 4. And if you need any help, definitely reach out to me. Post your comments below. Let me know what you think. And hopefully everything goes well during the season and nothing breaks. Alright. Thank you for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.